That's okay. We can fix it. Wait, here he comes. I don't see you.
Councillor Hinton, I could hear you. I was just checking.
Okay. Okay, hang on a second. She lost the link, so I sent her mine, and she's trying to get in. So does that change her name, or do you need to resend her the link?
She should be good. It's just clicking on the web link, and she's coming in right now.
Okay, so he sees you. You're fine.
I'm going to let her in right now. Councillor,
Okay. Okay.
Assistance. Okay. Oh, no worries. All right. There's Councillor Casper.
All right.
So, yeah.
Casper, welcome. It's a long walk to the other meeting. All right.
Was a long trip.
Yeah, I guess so. Glad you could join us.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Twig, do we have recording and everything going?
Yes, we're good, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Well, since we're all here, let me call this meeting to order. This City of Lincoln City City Council meeting of Monday, October 26, 2020, and it's 6:07. Remind everybody that's watching, there's 3 ways to do public comments. One, public comments submitted by email to publiccomment@lincolncity.org, and those written comments will be summarized and entered into the record. Or there's you can come into the actual City Hall and be in the chambers and get on Zoom, and we've got people there to assist in that effort. Or you can come in by making an appointment through public comments at lincolncity.org no later than 12 p.m. on the meeting day, and they can send you the link so you can enter in, and that would be for public comments. Mr. Twig, would you do roll call, please?
Certainly. Anderson.
Yes.
Casper.
Here.
Hinton.
Here.
Hoagland.
Here.
Mark.
I am here.
And Parsons.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to suspend the Pledge of Allegiance and go right to consent agenda. And we have 2 items on the consent agenda. Minutes of work session October 5th, 2020 at 1 p.m. And number 2, minutes of the regular meeting October 12th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Take a motion on the consent agenda.
I move to accept the consent agenda as written.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to accept from Casper and a second from Mark. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed with a nay? Hearing none. Thank you. All right, we have council deliberations, the next item, and this is a request for a continuance of statutory development agreement incorporating Annex 2020-01 CPA/ZC 2020-02. Mr. Appicello?
Yeah, Your Honor, Counsel, the applicant has requested that the matter be continued for 6 months, and so we came up with April 26, 2021 to have a date certain. I expressed that there should be renoticing, obviously, especially since we'll have additional information submitted, so the applicants agreed to that, and we request that you, number 1, reopen the hearing and the record, and number 2, give the matter to, and you can do this in one motion, continue it to April 26, 2021, 6 p.m. For a hearing with instructions to staff to renotice.
Okay, could you share with us, just for education, is there an alternative between or other than a 6-month continuance? Just
I think the applicant generally has the right to ask to reopen. Well, anyone can ask to reopen the record to respond to information that's been submitted. while the record was left open. And as you remember, we actually left the record open. Additional information has come in, not from the applicant, but from other people. So the applicant could basically request that the record be reopened, and I believe you'd have to do it. But the real reason for this is that the applicant believes that they're going to need to go further and create at least a much more detailed concept plan, which will be attached to the development agreement, which will control the subsequent plan development approval. So in order to not just submit plans that show, pretty pictures that aren't binding, they are going to need to have a land use planner develop those plans. So that's the idea behind the 6 months. Take that much time to get that done. And it'll also facilitate more discussions between staff and about the actual terms and conditions of the development agreement. So that's the rationale. You probably have a right to have the record reopened, but again, we were going to try to give you some revised terms by last Monday, but given the enormity of the task, asked for some additional time. So 6 months was a request. I mean, there's nothing to say you couldn't say, we'll grant a continuance for 3 months and revisit this at 3 months, but they've asked for 6. I think 6 would be appropriate given what they have to do.
Okay, thank you. So the request from staff and the applicant would be to reopen the hearing and the record.
And continue it to the April 26, 2021 meeting.
I would like to make that motion.
All right.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Councilor Hoagland and a second from Councilor Mark. Any discussion? Seeing, hearing none. Do we need a roll call or just voice?
I think it's
You're
voice.
muted. Voice? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed with a nay? All right. Thank you very much. That'll be continued on April 26, 2021.
Oh, wow.
And for the record, staff will make sure that is renoticed.
Thank you. All right, we have then next on the agenda, comments from citizens present on agenda, and we have, I think, a couple of people on Zoom that wish to come in. Let me remind everybody that on these public comments, this is not a time for discussion. These are comments. So it isn't a question and answer time, but certainly you're able to make your statements. Council can take up any actions or suggestions or thoughts based on your comments. And you have 3 minutes of time. So let's see, Mr. Twig, do you have anybody in the chamber there?
No, Mayor, not tonight.
Oh, okay, so we have a couple of guests on Zoom. Is that?
Yes, Mayor, we do. I believe that Miss Corzine wants to address you at this section, and Miss London would like to wait until the end.
Oh, I see. Okay, I'm sorry. And are you unmuted by chance?
It says that I'm unmuted.
Oh, okay, go ahead then.
Okay. My comment is on the hospital generator, where during the Echo Mountain evacuation, patients were transported to Newport. And then it has come out that, yes, the hospital did have a generator, but it was a natural gas generator. So when the gas went off, the generator was of no use. So in actuality, they didn't really have a generator. So my other comment on this is that I am very curious if the hospital is in code that applies to the hospitals and nursing homes with the National Fire Protection Association, the NFPA, or the NFPA 101. And what are they going to do to rectify this for future evacuations or emergencies? And then on the other one is on the tsunami alerts that we have here that we're trying or considering tying in fire evacuation to that. From my understanding, the tsunami sirens aren't even actually working at full capacity. Is that being looked into? And those are my comments.
Great. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Chandler, did you have some written comments come in?
Yes, sir, I did. There were some that came prior to the publication of the agenda. Those were included in your packet, one from Ms. Fran London and one from Mr. Doug Poland. I won't review those since they were in the packet. Since the packet was published, we've received the following. We received an email from Mr. Patrick Dune, who stated that he looked at the October 19th planning meeting and believes that the testimony of as Woods One LLC takes another long delay in their request. And he provided some written testimony that he had given on, or provided some written information pertaining to the annexation, particularly as it pertains to the amount of moderate income housing, which he states 10% of the units proposed is only 8 residential units. Will 72 units provided needed workforce housing? Will it be affordable? We also received from Ms. Fran London a series of questions that were tied to the previous city council meetings. It is a very long document with many, many questions in it. That has been sent to the city council. Unless the city council wants me to review those, they will go into the record. I have also forwarded those to Mr. Ken Murphy, Mr. Jerry Palmer, who will be giving an update on November 9th as to the after-action review that you previously discussed. And then we also received a similar document from Ms. Lisa Corzine that also provided some of the text from our previous meetings with questions pertaining to emergency preparedness. Again, it's a fairly long document. Most of it is already in the record in as much as it's from previous meetings. It also has those questions in it, and I have sent those to, again, Mr. Ken Murphy. They were previously sent to the City Council today, and they will be addressed during their presentation on the November 9th.
Great. That's it? Oh, Councilor Mark.
One more. I have one more that just came in right before the meeting. Again, this one is from Mr. Jay Roloff. It also is a copy of the special or extracts from the City Council minutes. This has not been sent to the City Council in as much as we just received it just before the meeting. He highlights quotes from the city councilors in as much as I had not had opportunity to send it before to the City Council. I'll just summarize these. He highlights that Highway 229 to Siletz was not used during the emergency. There was no traffic control. Councilor Mark said that the Siletz Highway could have been used for evacuation. Chief Palmer said that creating a rural side ride diversion to Highway 229 would have needed significant labor for traffic control. Councilor Hinton noted that the people in level 3 evacuation zones couldn't evacuate quickly because people in 1 and 2 were also evacuating. Councilor Hinton has received information on public radio services. Councilor Hinton said there were 2 available radio opportunities in the area. Councilor Hogan would like to see a radio station providing relevant information. Councilor Parsons would like to see radio being used for the emergency notifications. Mr. Murphy said that dealing with rumors that were posted on Facebook took a tremendous amount of time. Mr. Chandler noted that the radio systems would be a major budgetary decision, and Mr. Chandler said they were being posted in 4 places as part of the record for a particular meeting on Facebook with a link on the city webpage and on Ron's report blog. Mr. Mayor, I will send these to Mr. Twigg to be entered into the record.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Councilor Mark.
I have a request. I hope I put this diplomatically. We councilors receive an abundance of information to review before these meetings, sometimes hundreds of pages. What I've seen in that comment that Mr. Chandler just read, and then it goes to the point, and the earlier one we received from some people, where they felt that it would be helpful to copy and paste the minutes of our previous meetings and then add comments. It would really help me personally if, instead of doing that, if the person who wants to comment might break out the section that they want to comment on and add their comment. I'd appreciate that. But to have to scan through dozens and dozens of pages of material that A, I've looked at before, and B, I was in attendance at the meeting, so it makes my job more difficult than I would like. And we are volunteers here. We do have other responsibilities, so it's really time consuming to sift through that quantity of material. So I'm asking people to be a little more direct and concise in their comments. Personally, that would help me.
Great. All right. Thank you. Let's move on. We have an ordinance. This is ordinance number 2020-21.
Your Honor, Council, before the meeting, I advised Mr. Chandler, I think there's a mistake in this ordinance, and I haven't been able to talk to the outside counsel who negotiated this. So the ordinance is on tonight because the franchise, and this is basically the old COSCOM, which was transferred to another entity. This is basically an updated, revised franchise, but there's an issue, and I don't want to talk about it right now, but I believe there's a mistake in here, and we do have the ability to continue this to November 9th. The franchise doesn't expire until the 12th. We were going to have to adopt this by emergency anyway because there's less than 30 days before the expiration. So I respectfully request that you continue this ordinance to November 9th, and hopefully I'll be able to talk to the outside attorney and make the correction that I believe needs to be made. So I'd request a continuance to November 9th.
All right. Is there a motion to do so?
I'd like to make that motion.
I'll Councilor Parsons with the second from Councilor Hoagland. Okay. To continue to November 9th, ordinance number 2020-21. All those in favor Or any further discussion? Yeah, Councilor Mark?
I have a question, and maybe this would be better for me to just email the attorney. It's kind of a procedural thing. But in considering a franchise contract, does the city have any responsibility or liability for, what I want to get at is the quality of the service? I mean, once we commit, if a lot of customers, and I'm not trying to pick on this one, it just jumped in my head, when we approve a franchise, if service is lacking, who's responsible? Is that simply the responsibility of that company, or does the city get any blowback from that sort of problem?
I guess the answer is it depends. It used to be that it was just a negotiated kind of item, you know, like we want to have a local customer service office, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And then we had a lot of federal top-down regulation and preemption on telecom, so which is why we generally go with outside counsel that specializes in that. So the ability to negotiate some of those things has been taken away from us. So yes and no. If you have specific questions, I can probably point out maybe 6 things in the agreement that are kind of different from in the past, but there's really not a lot. You know, we had to talk about 5G, and they had to acknowledge that we already had an ordinance on that. And, but there's not a lot. So if you're really curious, I'd be happy to, for the next time, I'll add some more, you know, the differences stuff to the agenda item. But again, it was negotiated with outside counsel, and so I can only really just summarize, and I'd like to do that at the next meeting if you don't mind.
All right. Councilor Casper.
Just quickly, is this commercial or residential?
Well, it's the whole city. It's really for the use of the right of way.
But is it for commercial use or for residential? The city, is it the city, then it would be commercial?
I think it would be the entire city.
Okay.
It divides the city into commercial and residential. It's for use of the right of way.
Councilor Casper, you're looking for what they're going to use the right of way for.
Well, I thought, okay, I guess we have one server provider here in town that has moved out of town. I mean, no, their service is still here, but I thought that one served residential, and I was wondering if this one is serving commercial while the other one was serving residential, or are they both doing both?
Mr. Chandler?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I don't know the exact breakdown of this company, but it is primarily a commercial delivery of their services. For the next meeting, I can get a better breakdown of that. What Mr. Apichello is talking about is correct in that the franchise, for whoever they want to service, for the whole city. That they decide how they're going to spread that out into the community. But in this case, I believe it's mostly commercial. But I'll get a breakdown on that.
But I don't know that that's in the franchise limit. I don't know that limitation is in the franchise.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion on the table to continue this ordinance to the next meeting, November 9th?
We already had that motion, I thought.
We do. We're going to vote on it now.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yep, that's all right. So all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed with a nay? Hearing none. Okay, it passed. Thank you. All right, Mr. Chandler, you've got special order of business.
Yes, thank you. I had mentioned that I was going to bring back some information pertaining to July 4th, and in my council communication, I gave you a little bit of history of some of the actions that we have taken. some of the results that we've seen, an assessment by Lieutenant Broderick, and so forth. So I'm not going to go over those unless you have questions. I'm just going to jump ahead to the proposals that we're making for next year. These are things that actually have a budget, so they would become part of the budget process and would have to be approved within the budget. I looked at really three different activities that we have involving the 4th of July. We have enforcement as it pertains to fireworks. We have marketing as it pertains to fireworks and events. And then we've had our event, the 4th of July event, which has been called Independence Day at Siletz Bay. In the area of enforcement, I am proposing that if it's approved by the City Council, that I would add it to the budget to hire security guards to assist in that, up to 6 security guards. The amount was much less than I was expecting. The primary duty would be to increase the number of the firework contacts that were made by the police or their representatives. When you look at the history, you'll see there's a fair balance between the number of police contacts that came from complaints that came through the 911 dispatch center and those that were initiated by the police officers themselves. The task that we would be looking at for the security guards would be to increase the number of contacts initiated by either our police officers or the security guards that we would use. The security guards can have authority for some police power, such as issuing citations, confiscating fireworks, and so forth. So that's the primary change that I would make within enforcement. There's a second idea that I'm just begun to explore a little bit, but I did not include it very much in this. I did not include it in this report because it's still in a little bit of the beginning phase. A recommendation came to me to be able to use volunteers at the beach entrance points, at the access points, to give flyers out that essentially say that fireworks on the beach are illegal. I'm still looking at that on what kind of liability we could have. We did have a case where one of our residents tried that in the past and it ended up in a confrontation. So I'm in discussions with the insurance company a little bit to find out the exposure that we or those individuals could have. In the area of marketing, the city in the past has used flyers, social media campaigns, and signage as its primary method of getting the word out. The changes that we would propose for the 2021 year would be to increase the number of flyers, to expand the use of social media beyond just Facebook, and expand the Facebook exposure. Last year we ran 9 advertisements or 9 posts on Facebook. We'd run a secondary marketing campaign that emphasizes that all the fireworks are illegal on the beach. Now, 2 years ago, our marketing campaign was the Keep It Simple or Keep It Legal, Keep It Safe campaign. This last year, because we were not, and then we also had it was a main component was part of the event advertisement. This last year, because we didn't host the 4th of July event, it was entirely on making people aware that things are illegal. What I'm proposing for next year is that we run both of those simultaneously. One that will deal with the use of fireworks as a part of the event, such as come to our event, you don't need to bring your fireworks. And then the other one that deals just more specifically, like we did this year, that fireworks are illegal on the beaches, and these are the only fireworks that are permitted by the state, and what enforcement actually means for that. And then, virus permitting, again, we would emphasize in our marketing that the Independence Day at Siletz Bay is an excellent alternative to shooting off your own fireworks, and much easier on the pocketbook if you get things confiscated or get fined or so forth. And then finally, the event, again, virus permitting, if we're able to host the Independence Day at Siletz Bay Festival, we will continue to do that. Over the past few years, we've expanded that from simply a fireworks event into a more day-long festival. It's been successful. It may be, time will tell, that it had an impact on where the fireworks were shooting off compared to this year when we didn't have that. The element that we would propose to add into that festival was proposed for this year would be an artisans fair down on 51st to continue to make it more of a family-friendly festival for people to come and enjoy, and as a main alternative to bringing your own fireworks. So those are the things that we're proposing, that we're following up on. All of them have budgetary implications, and so they would become part of the budget. Unless I heard from the city council that says, no, we don't want to do those, my intent is to include those as part of next year's budget.
All right. Questions from council. Mr. Hoagland.
Yes, hi, thank you. So I think, that's something that, thank you, Mr. Chandler, for what you've said, advocating for people, more people involved, the security thing. I think that if we're going to do something like that, it needs to be at every beach access and 2 people and a container. If we're really going to get serious with this, then it needs to get serious and it just be a very strong campaign. There's no fireworks at it. Stay safe, stay legal is very nice, but it's, are we, council, our residents, has it been enough to really go for it? If you're surprised by the cost of the number of security officers that you would hire, then I don't see why we don't keep going further and have a collections thing and have them be tied in with police and all of that. I think it's very important. It could be a wonderful opportunity to, provide customer service and have volunteers there with them. Sure. And here's the literature or whatever that it is, but it needs to be at every beach access, 10 at Moe's or Southwest 51st, but also at Southwest 52nd and, Spanish Head and Southwest Anchor and all those other little places that we know people know how to get to the beach outside of just the really heavily advertised, but legitimately having 2 people at each place. And, I've mentioned it before, not allowing them to go to the beach, not play catch up with the officers trying to run around and trying to find them. Not saying that they shouldn't be on the beach. I think they should still be on the beach and traveling in north and south and providing, customer service and to be seen that way. I think it's very important and a wonderful opportunity to showcase who we are as Lincoln City. But really pulling it out, I would like to see it be the entirety all the way from even in Cutler City. Sorry, Rick and Judy, but even in Cutler City, I'm sorry. It should start there and all the way up to Rhodes End.
Okay. Councilor Parsons.
Yeah, my concern would be with the security, would be our liability. This last year we had an incident we all know about. They were trying to fight our cops. So I don't see how somebody with less authority is going to not have a similar outcome.
Sure. I was trying to get them at the beginning of it, instead of letting them establish themselves and carry on and all those things that kind of add more bravado to those individuals. You're already doing it. What are you going to do? Versus stopping it before it comes down. And then have them very tied in with the police and say, hey, look, these are dangerous people that need to police, obviously.
Right. For me, as long as we're covered liability-wise, if somebody gets in a fight, we're not getting sued
Councilor Mark.
Yeah, to Councilor Parsons' point, number one, I think that maybe I'm a wishful thinker, but I think the Spanish Head incident was an anomaly. I don't think we would use that as a model for how we respond. Number two, in that regard, the police responded wonderfully. I would have to think that private security guards would know to back off, whatever. But my other concern is, I think what I'm hearing from the police chief, is that it's really difficult to blanket 7 miles of beaches, and the idea of, so I'm not sure, Councilor Hogan, what you have in mind as far as people aren't volunteering that, I'm carrying illegal fireworks when they come onto the beach. So it's easy enough just to walk onto the beach anywhere if that's what they want to do. What I'm thinking might be more effective, in my total lay, judgment, is to concentrate this. I love the idea of hiring 6 more private security people. I'm thinking the most effective thing would be to concentrate this force at Road's End, where it seems to be all hell breaks loose every year, and send a signal, and if crack down on people there and confiscate and cite people and let the word go out. This is not acceptable in Lincoln City. Sure, people are going to squirt out to other beaches and get away with it there. And I think there's only so much we can do. And what I'd like to do is find a way to send the message, to change the culture, to let the world outside Lincoln City know that they're not welcome when they bring these illegal fireworks here. And I don't know what the best technique is. I trust our police force to figure that out. But I think trying to cover every single beach access point is unrealistic.
Councilor Parsons?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if we've exhausted all of our ends to get help, maybe from state park rangers or something that is a state park that's kind of a jurisdictional issue too. So I didn't know if we've exhausted every avenue to try to get some help there before we go hiring more people.
The answer is yes. We will continue to try, but the city, the state, everybody else is dealing with the same issues, the other cities. But yes, we will continue to try.
So, Ron, and I guess I can't remember, but at what point did council, we talked about one time doing away with fireworks altogether. And did we make a decision on that, or was that just on the table in discussion?
Now, there was a consensus that we were not going to ban fireworks.
Okay.
And so that's not the proposal that I'm putting forth. It's that we will enforce the laws that are already in place. So, for example, no fireworks are permitted on the beach at all. Some fireworks are permitted elsewhere and that are not banned. And so we're not proposing at this point to ban fireworks completely.
Okay. Councilor Hinton.
Ron, are you still going to use the 4-wheelers on the beach?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I have a request that you spend your 4th of July in Road's End. I would very much like to attend the city fireworks, and I've not been able to for fear of my house burning from all of the fireworks in Road's End. And I know that you drove it, but last year, it was like at 8 o'clock. I think you need to come at 10 o'clock and stay till 2.
Be happy to.
I'm really, really tired of this. And having flyers delivered didn't make a dent in Road's End last year. We had we've had fireworks up until I think even last month. So it's an ongoing issue. It's not just around the 4th of July, but it does start probably the 3rd week in June and then ramps up and doesn't ramp down for a long time. And, you know, especially now after we've experienced the fire getting close to Lincoln City, the Echo Mountain Fire Complex, or Complex Fire, excuse me, I think that we need to be extra careful this year because we're surrounded by the forest behind us. And there have been efforts in the past by the Neighborhood Association in Roxanne to deliver flyers, and they worked with the chief to do that, and that was really great. There were some volunteers that went to the beach access points and like the day before or earlier on the 4th and delivered solve bags to people to bring out their trash and to let people know that that fireworks were illegal on the beach. A few people were accosted. They were very well organized, and it was a big issue for them. So I don't think you'll be able to get those folks back as volunteers. But and the big cleanup afterwards, the neighborhood's getting a little tired of that too.
Councilor Parsons.
So I would like to see a ban of fireworks in Roxanne, and we did talk about that. I don't remember that we decided not to do that.
Councilor Parsons.
Just about to chime in and say my recollection of the way we ended that last fireworks meeting was I thought we decided we were going to focus more enforcement in the neighborhoods that we get higher complaints from this next coming year.
Okay. And Councilor Mark.
Oh, kind of a wild random thought. I do like electric signs alerting people fireworks or whatever the word we're going to use, you know, no fireworks on the beach. And, you know, we could get a little more severe with our signage. We could put up a sign that has a photo of someone being handcuffed with his hands behind, or his or her hands tied behind his or her back, and saying this person was arrested for fireworks, which are illegal. You know, some strong, I don't know what the language would be, but some strong message, and a sign on Logan Road, and a sign when people enter Lincoln City, and just some sort of signal to people that we are serious about this. So we're tired of leaving their filth behind. I mean their fireworks filth is what I mean, but other filth as well. And scaring people and scaring dogs and endangering our community, which had to evacuate because of a wildfire. I think we need to come up with some very strong language, some signage to put people on alert that we're serious about this.
Okay. All right, Councilor Hovland.
Just reiterating that, I think, you know, the best way to be taken serious is to have people at those places. And if you're really standing there and saying, look, you'll be cited, and there's people at everything, because then we know that the posse isn't helping us. We know that the county and state are having trouble. And if we hire those people there to prevent it from going on in the best capacity that they have, and also seeing, action's going to be a lot stronger. We know, you know, the flyers haven't really been working as much as we'd like. And it's really something that, you know, if you have people there in a dumpster, whatever kind of, you know, fire resistant dumpster there, that look, you can go, or, you know, just turn around, because it's reached critical mass. And yeah, you can still hear fireworks going on. And so what are you supposed to do when it's just one or three? I don't know that, but it's really something that we have to have some strong action with, sure.
Okay. Mr. Appicello, you had a question?
Just that a statement, actually. We do have a section in 1216-035. Fireworks are basically prohibited in city parks and open space. And I realize we're not currently talking about prohibiting fireworks in the entire city, but we do prohibit them in those places. You may want to consider whether or not, you know, you want to expand that to include places like city parking lots and maybe even public right-of-way. People seem to want to set these things off on other people's property due to the filth, as Councilor Mark mentioned. And then they leave it behind. For your park staff actually do clean up the parking lots, and so you may want to consider that in terms of legislative action.
Okay, Councilor or Mr. Chandler.
The challenge that you have with all of this, when you're talking about no matter how you want to expand it, is going to be enforcement. It's going to be a manpower issue. That whether you keep the laws as they are now, or expand it, as Richard was just talking about, or placing people at each beach entrance, these issues all become a matter of enforcement, and it becomes a matter of bodies. Now, there are some legal challenges that you face. You cannot violate search and seizure laws without going through the proper process. So there's those issues. This is why, as we were looking at the focus on where we will use additional bodies, is going to be in the area of initiated contact by police officers or those that are working with the police officers, so that we can abide by the laws, so that we can catch people as and thus enable us to cite them as our ordinances provide. So and our intent was really as what Councilor Mark was talking about, was to focus where the problems are greater. If we expand that, then it just simply means we're going to need to hire more people, because no matter what the law is that you're going to come under, it becomes a matter of enough bodies to enforce it. And so that's the approach that we're taking, is that when we looked at our previous discussion, the conclusion was we need more people, and then we go and build it from that point on. So,
Councilor Hinton.
I just want to remind us that other cities have banned fireworks. I just want to remind us of that. I think either Seaside or Cannon Beach. I think it was Seaside. And Vancouver, Washington, and others.
Have they had success?
I think so. I mean, there's going to be some issues at first, I'm sure, but a little research could be done to find out the answer to that.
Okay, anything else? Because right now, Ron would be putting this into the budget, and we'd see it again, the budget implications there as we develop that. Right?
I might point out, Mr. Mayor, that the part that would not be added for the budget for July 4th, 2021 would be the marketing. That's already included in this year's budget. So, but the personnel costs would go into the next budget.
Okay. All right. COVID-19 update.
And I'm not going to go over the things that were already in the packet, but I do have a few things that are of note that I wanted to mention. First, and perhaps one of the most significant, are the new mask guidelines that were announced by the Oregon Health Authority. In particular, the guidance now requires that people wear face mask coverings in all private and public workspaces, including classrooms, offices, meeting rooms, and workspaces, unless someone is alone in an office or in a private workspace. It is not recommended that individuals wear a face shield instead of a mask or face covering. Face shields can be very good at blocking droplets, that individuals release, but they are not as effective at limiting the release of aerosols that can go around the shield. OHA is also now recommends testing for anyone who has symptoms of COVID-19 regardless of severity, and all close contacts of those individuals, even if they have no symptoms. The Oregon Health Authority announced an expansion of the COVID-19 testing in Oregon now receives between 60,000 and 80,000 Abbott by Next now rapid point of care antigen tests per week through the end of the year. These new tests will nearly double Oregon's testing capacity, which will help identify more people who are infected by COVID-19. Also, the OHA, Oregon Health Authority, has asked Oregonians to rethink Halloween, to avoid the traditional door-to-door trick-or-treating, avoid costume parties with people outside their own households, and wear a face covering because Halloween masks don't protect against COVID-19. In addition, this came out just recently from the Oregon Health Authority. There is no evidence that the flu vaccine causes people to be more susceptible to COVID-19. The single biggest risk factor is risky behavior like exposure to large groups of people without a mask indoors for long periods of time. The risk of contracting COVID is not connected to the flu shot. So those are the only things I have to add from what's already in your packet.
Okay. And Ron, this information you provided in the packet is through the county, and so one can go direct and should go direct to the county for this updated information?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the final message would be social gatherings seem to spread the virus.
Yes, sir.
Councilor Hinton.
I just have something to add to that. The congregate, well, let me start at the beginning. The county is looking for sheltering winter homeless, not COVID related, not fire related, but because of COVID, the winter homeless need non-congregate type of sheltering. And so they're providing vouchers to hotels, and they've asked the city for some funding for this effort. I believe we gave $2,500 last year towards this type of covering for the homeless. And they're going to provide about 20 units from November 1st through December 31st. And the hotel and motel, they haven't been obtained yet by contract with the county, but that's what they're working on now. And I think Ron was working on that, I hope.
Yes. This is primarily being worked through the county. They are working with 2 hotels, one in Lincoln City, one in Newport, in which each would provide a block of about 20 20 rooms that would be available. They are also working with, trying to work with some nonprofit organizations to help work with this. In Newport, it's Grace Winds Havens, which operates a shelter. They are working with a couple of organizations in here, but they did not let me know who that was going to be. We did find out that the information that Councilor Hinton gave was correct, that last year we contributed $2,500 towards this. It was confirmed to me today that Newport is contributing $10,000 this year. The county was meeting on this today, although I don't know, I wasn't able to listen in to find out, but we are expecting a proposal to come from the county to us on this.
And Ron, you say they're working with someone to organize it, manage it in Lincoln City?
That's my understanding, but I'm not privy to who that might be.
Okay.
Nor am I privy to which hotel they're working with.
Okay. So then the plan there would be what? We would hear from the county and then consider a funding request?
It is my understanding, I think so.
Okay. All right.
That's what I understand too from talking to the county chair, commission chair. That's
Okay. Good. All right. How about the Echo Mountain Complex update?
Just a few things to bring up with this. One of the most significant is that as of today, the Lincoln County has still not received approval from FEMA for a housing mission. Recovery efforts currently are focused on the cleanup of household hazardous waste and other ash and debris in the fire areas. The county is now partnering with the Olalla Center to help Echo Mountain wildfire survivors. They issued a media release that said, in an effort to ensure every person displaced by the Echo Mountain wildfire is able to access the help they need, the county has contracted with the Olalla Center, a local nonprofit organization that has a long history of assisting Lincoln County residents in need. In addition, the FEMA office has now set up its external outreach center in the Lincoln City Outlet Mall, Suite 200. The site offers in-person visits for residents to get information about their FEMA application, ask questions about letters they received from FEMA, and have their documents scanned to be part of the application. That came out from the county. I'll make sure that this gets put onto all of our various media websites as well tomorrow. And then finally, there's been a lot of questions and comments related to our after action review. That report is the follow-up. It'll be the first of a few follow-up. It's not going to be covering everything, but that will be on November 9th, and it will be conducted by Mr. Ken Murphy and Mr. Jerry Palmer.
And Ron, can you update us, because the county is doing theirs, and I saw they have hired a consultant, so they'll be, I assume, taking all our information and others, combining it?
I hope so. We're sending that information, our own evaluation of the after action review to them. So anything that we come up with, they will receive a copy of that.
Great. Okay. All right. Councilor Hinton.
I just have a little more to add to that. The Red Cross and FEMA vouchers for housing for folks will continue through December 31st, and then that ends. And that's when we were talking about those FEMA trailers, perhaps. And of course, we haven't received that housing mission yet from FEMA, so they're looking at another way of doing that, which is looking at all of the other types of housing available within Lincoln City, being the closest area to the where the fire was. And so they're looking at that. I reminded folks, this was on the League of Oregon Cities call. I asked the governor's representative about, housing if we don't get FEMA, and so they were answering it by this explanation that they'll have people, fair market rental contractors out in the field over the next 3 to 4 weeks surveying the potential of rental availability, and their goal is to keep the money flowing within the area that's closest to where the fire was. And so that's why they're looking at rental properties, and they're considering VRDs as well. So there probably will be some contact with either those owners or managers. I'm not sure. So Ron, they might be at your doorstep asking for help with this. It sounds like they could. And they have an incentive built in for people who wish to provide rentals for these folks for about up to 18 months or maybe a little bit longer, which is 125% of median fair market. And so if people regularly get $1,000 a month for rent, they get $1,250, so they're building in that 25% incentive so they can actually encourage people to rent to these folks that are displaced because of the fire. So, and I don't know how that impacts us. Ron, you're budget-minded guy, so I don't know if in fact they decide that they want to use the VRDs. I'm not sure of how they do that contracting and all of that with the owners and how that would impact the TRTs and property managers and all of that. So I mean, just a lot of questions I have based on that. And I told him I was really concerned that, and at this point, I was talking back and forth with the FEMA recovery representative, and I just have a lot of questions for the city about what that means. I mean, it'd be great if we had a lot of properties available, but I'm not sure that we do. So that question will probably, hopefully, come to you, Ron. I hope they make some contact pretty soon, especially if they have contractors out here surveying our properties. I would hope they would check in first. But because of the hierarchy of FEMA, they might go to the county first. So maybe Katie should be told to have them check in with you. I don't know, but anyway, lots of questions about that one. I just want to make sure that people get housed somewhere, because December 31st seems like a long time away, but it is not, especially if you need to find a place to live.
And are there other issues or things coming up? Councilor Hinton, have you heard in those meetings? Because it seems like misinformation continues with water supply out in Otis and special service districts. And
yeah, they said actually what the FEMA recovery guy, he seems to know his business. He said that the water, there was some water issues, but that Panther Creek has offered to provide water to those who don't have it, and then there's other available water sources. So I think if people work through the process, they'll get the right answers. I know that, and I don't know if any city planners have been helping or engineers, but I know that the county engineers and planners have been out there in the field. They've identified where all the pipes were and where the septic tanks are and things like that. So they're trying to, they mark where they are so when they're cleaning up the debris that the heavy equipment doesn't roll over their pipes, and so they're trying to protect as much of the infrastructure that's still in place. Panther Creek, I guess, is trying to be very helpful. I don't know where their water comes from. Their main office is in another city, maybe McMinnville, I'm not sure, but I don't know where their water source is and how much water they have to give away. But so they're working through all those issues right now so they can determine how and when people can start rebuilding, but they have to get the debris out first.
Okay.
Oh, one more thing. Sorry, I just thought of one more thing. And this is good for anybody who's listening or knows of anyone who has lost their house because of the fire. And Ron, maybe you can help with this, but the city has provided 4 approved drawings for housing of different sizes and configurations, so people can get those, I think, free of charge. Isn't that right?
Yes, and they are fully ready to go.
Yeah, so all they need is the builder. So spread the word, that saves thousands of dollars. And just to encourage everybody who knows anyone who's been through that fire and lost housing, they really need to go through the process. If FEMA has denied their application, tell them to appeal it. It's not a big deal, but sometimes they're just missing a little bit of data, and then that can be filled in, and then they can move forward with their FEMA work. But if they don't do that work, they won't get any funding.
All right. Let's see. How about city manager report, city attorney report? City manager?
No, nothing other than what we've talked about.
All right. Mr. Apicello, you have anything?
I did send an email to our copy counsel on an email to one of this, I guess the gentleman who's in charge of the state park here. It was my understanding that there was some discussion about RV spaces. As you know, we have a couple years ago adopted an ordinance that would allow people in vehicles to stay in a religious institution's parking lot, provided there was garbage service and access to a bathroom and hand washing facilities. We've never had any religious institution take us up on that. That's something that we've had in the code now for 4 years, 4.5 almost. And then we recently had to designate a couple spaces where you could actually stay between 2:30 a.m. and 5 a.m. if you wanted to rest in a city parking lot. And the consensus is that that's not really the best place for that. The best place for someone to rest would be maybe a campground. And since we have a state park campground in our city, I thought we were in discussions with them, or I was told the county and the city had talked to the state park system about that. I wanted to expand that to include some tent camping options. Some people don't have an RV, but they have a tent. They pack around with them and they put it up in the campsite. So my question for council is this something you want us to look into or pursue? I mean, I had explained, we had an executive session about this topic, why it was maybe appropriate to have these options available, even if, granted, hotel vouchers are much better when we're in having bad weather, but having other options available, especially for people that, you know, COVID is something that basically puts people off staying in hotels. And sometimes they want to stay in their RV or even in their vehicle or in their tent. And so sometimes people without resources want to keep that freedom, basically. So I'm asking if you want me and or Ron to pursue this, or should we just not pursue it? I guess it'll be an agreement with the state to see if we can get them to allow us to open up the state park for use by maybe the county and the city.
Well, my understanding, and Ron, maybe you've got an update, but when we the city and the county met with the state parks, that was on the table as a discussion, but it didn't seem to go very far. With the state has shut down the parking or the campgrounds. They can't very well, according to them, open up part of it. And then the whole management would be a difficult one for them. So the question, they really seem to be punted back to the county and or city to manage the whole bloody thing. And that's kind of where we left it, is on the table as we were looking for other and all housing opportunities. Mr. Apicella, you must have an update.
Well, the most recent email I had was on October 19th, and it basically said, and I forwarded this to you, I copied you on this, is that the only feasible way to use the park for this kind of use would be to rent the entire campground to the city for a specified period of time to operate at its expense, and then have the city turn it back over to the state to operate for recreation purposes for the rest of the year. So basically, they're willing to talk to us about renting the park for the off season, provided we return it to them if we want to use it for this kind of sheltering purpose. Now, obviously, there's no mention of rent for what, $1? You know, what the cost is and what would be the cost of the city to maintain it. But it's not an absolute no. It's here's a way to get there. So my question to you is, are you interested in talking to them? Should we be talking to them about that, or is this an idea that's just not feasible?
Councillor Hinton.
Richard, I'm getting a little confused with all of our different folks needing housing. Is this for winter homeless, or is this for the fire affected homeless?
Yeah, it's mostly for the homeless. I'm not saying that, you know, that's not really the kind of question we would ask when you come. It's like, if you don't have a place to stay, we would be able to provide it. It's not for tourists.
Right.
Free vacation place, but it's for homeless. If you're homeless because of a fire or homeless because of some other reason, we're not asking questions.
Okay, and I think that's fine. The only reason I ask is because if we are trying to house people for the fire, and that's one thing, we don't want to mix our apples and oranges here totally, or we're going to undermine ourselves in other efforts. So I just want us to be really clear, and also if we are providing funding to the county for the winter homeless, as that group of folks have been called now, then I just I don't know, I just want us to be really careful about how we do this, because we need to be able to provide shelter for everybody, but we have different pockets of money, different processes to go through, different methods to get there. And further, if we're at a point where we do want to work with state parks for all of this, and we're hitting some kind of a roadblock, we can always ask Regional Solutions to help us.
Well, I wasn't trying to take money away from the you know, you're talking about winter sheltering and giving money to possibly giving money to the county to facilitate that. And obviously it's always better for someone to stay in a building than in an RV or their vehicle. But sometimes you don't have people willing to do that, and maybe sometimes it's best to have other options. But it's certainly your call. I'm just asking if you want me to spend any time in this kind of a negotiation with the state, or should, you know, I'll just let it go if that's your desire.
Councillor Casper.
Well, if that's the issue, and we're supposed to maintain it and perhaps monitor the camp, I mean, how would that work? What would be our liability? Do we have to vet the people before they come in? Suppose we have some kind of offenders, or does it go through chance? I mean,
yeah, obviously the partnering, I think I said this in the email, partnering with a not-for-profit organization is probably always the more desirable way to do this, which is why we had started out this whole process by telling religious institutions that typically do provide this kind of shelter that they're authorized, but that has not panned out. I would think we'd want to, through the negotiation, talk about, well, we can do this if we're partnering with this group or that group. But again, it's only a question for you. Do you want me to pursue this? Or do we want to just go back and visit with religious institutions about vehicle camp spaces and ask them, what is it going to take for you to step up and do this? Do you need a subsidy from us? Should we provide funding for garbage collection and porta potties at those locations? Again, that's just a question.
I would rather that we try to expand what we already have, and that your suggestion of going back to the churches and see what it would take to get them moved off the dime. Because the campground, I can tell you, having walked it, and then you've got all the restrooms and facilities that have been closed. it would be a chore to manage and control for anyone, let alone us. So my vote or suggestion would be to circle back to the churches.
Okay. I can do that if that's what council wants to do.
Yeah, Councilor Hinton?
I think that's a good idea too, and also because we have this voucher program, again with the county, we could also increase that too, rather than starting a whole new effort. However, I think it's very creative and it would have worked had the state been more of a partner in all of this. But I think if it's going to come back all on us, it's a lot. And we have these other things going on for housing right now. Maybe next year would be a good idea.
Does anybody have a problem with the suggestion of going back and talking to churches?
No.
Seeing none? All right, we'll consider that unanimous consent.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Apichello? Okay, thank you. All right, we have then additional comments from citizens present. Again, a reminder, this is not a discussion, but comments. And I think, Fran, you're signed up for this one?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I sure am. Number one, I agree with Councilor Hinton. I do not think we should be selling fireworks if they are illegal on the beach. Most people go to the beach and set them off. So why have sell something that's illegal for people to take to the beach? It doesn't make any sense to me. That's just my thought. The other comment that I had, I'm a Lincoln City resident and one of the chief petitioners for the initiative petition to repeal Ordinance 2020 that is projected to cut millions of dollars of funding for our firemen and EMT paramedics. Our first attempt to stop this mayor and council from defunding the firemen's budget had a deadline. On our requirement was to deliver 693 valid signatures of Lincoln City voters by September 9th. But on September 7th, the fires broke out and our city was ordered to evacuate and power was shut off. We then requested an extension until the power came back on to deliver the signatures, as we were unable to verify our petition signers via the internet. Our extension was denied by Mayor Anderson and signed the ordinance into law on September 10th while the fires were still burning. As it turns out, we actually collected over 800 signatures. So on October 7th, we had to file new paperwork to repeal the ordinance 2020 and have our petitioners re-sign the signature forms. And now, as we're reviewing the ballot title that the city attorney has provided us, it appears he's violated the state law. We filed an initiative petition, not a referendum. Ordinance 2050.035 requires the question to be worded so that a yes response corresponds to the purpose of the measure. A yes vote on this measure would repeal the ordinance, not approve it. Therefore, in order to avoid any further delays, we may just have to accept the ballot title as delivered to us, even though it is wrong. These potential illegal allegations you are allowing city staff to deliver to us citizens should make us all question who benefits from these errors and delays while there are only 9 days left before the election. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Twigg, are there anybody in the chamber?
No, Mayor, there's not.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chandler, did you get any further in?
No, sir.
All right. Okay, city councilors, Mr. Councilor Parsons, do you have anything you want to share?
No, sir, I'm good.
All right. Counselor Casper.
No, everything's okay.
Okay. Okay. Counselor Hinton. Nothing. All right. Counselor Hoagland. All right. And Counselor Mark.
I'll make it unanimous. Let's go home.
Okay. All right.
I am home.
All right. You are home. Okay. Well, with that, we can adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you all, and stay safe. All right.
All right. Done. Yeah. That's it.